But, from there I moved on to other Final Fantasy games, um, including 9, which at that point I had the bright idea to record it on VHS tape. I still have the recording, just basically, not like an LP exactly, but just, I love the stories of these games so much, I wanted to just be able to watch it without having to play it, and invest hundreds of hours of my life into it. But since by that point I did have a PlayStation 2, as I mentioned in my Final Fantasy V and VI, videos, I got a PlayStation 2. So, I had that game, so I could just put a tape into my TV and record it off there. And I had all the story moments, all the major battles, all the stuff that you could play the tapes through. It was 2 8-hour tapes that I got Final Fantasy IX on. You could just watch the game, watch the story, like as if it was this huge movie or miniseries. And I wanted to do the same thing with with some of the other games. So I went out and I bought Final Fantasy VIII used on was this used? I think it was. Yeah, I bought it used on PlayStation. So I own 2 copies of it. I would do the same thing with Final Fantasy VII as well. But the next time I played through, and I don't really have many memories of this playthrough. But I recorded the whole thing. So I have the data. I have the evidence of it. I've actually been watching that tape during this run to see what I do differently and just how crazy I was to get up to level 100. My strategy, I should mention this, because unlike most Final Fantasy games, because there are no magic points, summoning GFs doesn't cost anything. So my strategy, and I also mentioned the fact that the GF's HP, while it's being summoned, covers up your own. So my entire strategy for fights was to just summon GFs over and 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 over again. Yeah, I was a brilliant strategist. I was freaking patent when it came to this game. And so my Final Fantasy VIII playthrough, and again, this is like the 3rd time I played through this game, and I still didn't get the gist of this. But that one was about 3 tapes long, maybe 4. I don't know how many. I think at least 3. And I had to fast forward through the battles when I was skimming this because they were just so long. And I can't believe. No wonder I built up 90 hours into this game, for crying out loud. But I recorded that one, so I have that one on there for posterity forever. And then I think that must have been like 2004, maybe, something like that. On the time I was finishing high school. But speaking of high school, this game really resonated with me, just again because I was 14 years old and this looked so flippin' cool. To see characters like this going into high school. I loved the garden. I loved the fact that this was a game that was about teenagers saving the world, as kind of silly as it seems now. I knew high school wouldn't be like the garden, but it was, it's kind of, your imagination runs away with you and you have kind of fun with the idea, And so that summer that I was first playing the game, it was just cool to imagine like this really cool school, all these different areas to explore, and it becomes, it's able to fly. That part's kind of weird, but it was just a really cool school. It looked awesome, kids playing the card games, and it just made me really excited for high school, even though on the first day of school that fall, when August came around, I was lying in the fetal position on the bus seat because I just couldn't handle the idea of starting high school. I was cool. I was cool as ice, man. So when I played it again, I think I was about done with high school. Then the most recent time I played it before now was in 2007. I was in college, and I played through it again. And I think I was still doing level 100. I think by that point I realized, I'd read the stuff, but I was just used to, the way I played the game. And I hadn't really played it since. I don't really have much memories about that too, other than just my roommates who were into sports games. Were just they didn't really care for RPGs. They just didn't really get it. They thought it was kind of silly, and I guess it kind of is. But I, that was, so it's been about 10 years since I played the game before I played it here for this Final Fantasy Memories playthrough. And after I played it that last time, I swore that if I ever played it again, I would do low levels, take advantage of refining higher level magic spells. Okay, because the point of the game, or parts of it, I don't know, the game seems kind of schizophrenic about what you're supposed to do with it, because this is either considered what you're supposed to do or breaking the game. There's really sort of no in between here. What it likes you to do, or at least what is the best strategy if you want the game to be easy, is don't level up. Because like I said, the enemies level up with you. The way it seems supposed to be able to work, is that when the enemies get higher levels, they have better spells you can draw from them. So like if a low level enemy has a fire spell, a higher one might have the level 2 fire spell, Fyra, and then the highest level ones would have Fyraga. So the higher level you get to, the better spells you have access to, the better it will junction to your stats. However, because of the certain abilities you get in the game, you can find higher level magic through other means, mostly by playing the card game Triple Triad, which is a lot of fun. You can modify. There's a skill you learn early in the game called Card Mod that allows you to transform enemies into cards, which you can then refine into other items that are build towards your deck to get better cards by playing other people. But it's also twofold. No, sorry, actually I got those confused. There's a skill called Card that allows you to turn enemies into cards, and then you have another skill called Card Mod that allows you to turn cards into items, and you can refine those items into magic spells, perhaps, or any other number of things. It's one of those things where if you don't have a strategy guide, I have no idea how you figure out what the best things to refine are. And that was probably why, because again, I didn't understand what most of these things were. So if I have my really awesome Cypher card, which is one of the best cards in the game, and it says that I can card mod it into 3 diamond armors, I don't know what diamond armors do because they don't do anything innately. I mean, they'll teach a GF a skill. I'm taking an example off the top of my head. I have no idea if this turns into something cool or not. But you could use a different ability to change the diamond armors into something that's really cool. But you don't know that until you do that and go through all those steps and test everything, unless you look everything up in here. And I don't have the patience to check every single card, every single item to see, check them with cross-reference them with every single ability to see what they do. But anyway, using card is a good skill for 2 reasons. One is that you get more cards, you can refine into stuff. And also, if you card enemies, you don't get experience points, but you do get ability points for your GFs to learn those abilities, the all that stuff, to get your better magic. So it's a win-win. So kind of turned the game into Pokemon for me in a sense, because I wasn't trying to kill things, I just wanted to lower their HP enough, because you can't use card until you get them to low HP. Just like in Pokemon, you have to lower the Pokemon's HP in order to throw a Pokeball at it and catch it. So in this one, you have to lower their HP enough to turn them into a card, only unlike in Pokemon, there isn't a convenient health bar to show how far you have to go. You have to use a magic spell called Scan to figure out how much HP is left. But that's pretty much all I did in this one. And this playthrough was not leveling up as much as I possibly could get away with. I would card as many enemies as I could. I would draw spells when I could. I would refine, I would card mod cards. I used H.C. Bailey's Let's Play like I've been doing for all the other games. And boy, did he, again, like a lot of the things I would do on my own and just go for reference. But he did have a lot of refining strategies I never would have thought of before. Like refining Zell's card to get I don't remember what spell it was anymore, 100 triples for each of my characters. And so before I even left the first continent you're on, the little tiny Balam, to go on my first mission, everybody was just jacked up, and the game was really, really easy. I don't think it was unfun, because I got such pleasure, such satisfaction out of, having this new experience with the game, of seeing how far I could take this. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I do like the system for that perspective. It does allow a lot of customization. It does feel rewarding when you manage to really tap into that. But it kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy II in the sense that I felt myself in a catch-22. Because this is one of those Final Fantasy games where you can't boss battles don't give you experience points. So that's the one area of the game that you actually can kill it, because you can't card them anyway. So you have to kill them, and you can only take advantage of that. The problem is that I had done such a good job of getting the spells I needed. Squall was too strong. He could kill anything in one hit. But I didn't want him to, because then I get experience points, and he would gain levels, and he wouldn't be as strong anymore because the enemies would level up with him. And it reminded me of Final Fantasy II, where I complained there that I had a hard time raising my maximum MP in that game because the spells only cost 1 MP apiece, which was not enough, and because it wouldn't let me have characters not take an action during battle, so I would never be able to use enough magic points in a single battle that it would raise my maximum at the end of a battle, but I still didn't have enough MP that I could make it through a dungeon safely without running out of MP. And it was the same thing here, where it's like Squall was so strong that he was useless. And so I had to kind of cripple him for a while, because I didn't realize until I got into that situation that once you fight the fake president partway through Disc 1, there isn't a boss battle again for a very long time. And so I was just having, had to like make sure Squall wasn't as strong as he could be, just so he wouldn't kill people before I could kill bad guys before I could turn them into cards. So in that, for a while, it was kind of disappointing, because I couldn't really show off all these amazing skills that I'd gotten for myself. So I can see why it's kind of frustrating in that sense. But I had done every side quest multiple times in this game. Pretty much every playthrough I've done, I did everything for it, and I wasn't going to do everything here. It did end up doing most of the things. And in fact, I never did the Queen of Cards side quest. That was the one thing I ever actually refused to do. And again, that's something you could never figure out without a guide, I don't think, because there's this woman who's the Queen of Cards, and you have to sacrifice a specific card to her, but only when she's in a specific place, because she roams around the world, and it's random where she goes to. I mean, there are formulas that show you where it's just a percentage of going here from here, but it's still kind of random. But she'll only accept the card in a certain place, her hometown, and you wouldn't know what card to sacrifice. And then she makes another card, then she goes somewhere else, and it's just, I didn't want it. Because especially once I read in the manual, in the strategy guide, that if you wait till Disc 4, you can find her and just get those cards by playing her anyway. You don't have to go through all that crap, so I never did. This time I decided to do it. Because I found this guide online about the card rules. There are different rules. I give it credit. Even people who don't like Final Fantasy VIII love the card game because it's just so well done. It's really easy to pick up but difficult to master. It brings you such rewards in the game itself, and it's fun. So much better than Final Fantasy IX's stupid card game. But what was I talking about? Oh God. It's so well constructed. Like, each region has its own set of rules, and if you play in a different region, sometimes you carry those rules with you, and then when you get to later areas of the game, the rules are just completely crazy. They cripple you. They have random, where you can't select your own cards. They have plus and same, which adds up point values together. It's very complicated, and I hate it. And so it caused getting some of the really special cards made it very difficult. But I found a guide online that shows the best way to manipulate rules, and I didn't understand you could do that. It's like, when someone, when I would go to play in a new area and they'd say, "Oh, I see you're using Balam's rules, let's mix rules." I didn't know what that meant. I mean, I knew that we would mix rules, but I didn't know that that's how you pass on rules and how you can delete rules. I didn't really understand that until this playthrough. If you know what you're doing, you can manipulate that, with a little bit of luck. You have to reset the game sometimes, but how you can carry a rule with you and use that to get another rule deleted and stuff like that, so that you can actually make it so when you get to those later parts of the game, if you with enough diligence, you can delete all of those really bad rules and make it a much easier time. And I did that, and that was rewarding too. So I was doing the Queen of Cards side quest. I was on disc 3. I invested about 40 hours into the game at this point. Determined to spend 90 hours again. Although doing the whole card thing made, when I would get into random battles, it would make battles take a lot longer, so I think I built up quite a bit of more hours in that way than I otherwise would have. But I would go track her down at the pub in the town that she lives in. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, the game started having problems with that. It's like I'd see it would take a long time to load. The analog button on my controller, the light, it would go out. After a while, it would finally load the screen, but it was just getting kind of weird. And then eventually, it stopped loading it altogether. I would just have to reset the game, and I could not go to that screen anymore. And it really annoyed me, because at that point, I had one card left. I'd done all the rest of her side quests. There was only one card left for her to make. I'd reset the game hundreds of times to get her to go to the right places. I'd done everything. I'd gone around the world collecting the card. Oh, because also the annoying thing is once she makes the card, it goes into the hand of a random NPC. It doesn't tell you where, and you got to track this person down. It's a ridiculous, impossible quest, and I have no idea why I decided to do this, because I wanted to get, for the first time, I wanted to get every card. And this was not only the last card of the Queen of Cards side quest, it was the last card I needed, period. And it was a rare card. I was like, okay, I guess I could get it in disc 4 later on when I can just confront her directly. But it was annoying. Like, why is the game crapping out on me now? Why is it pulling a Final Fantasy VII on me? But I finally just gave up. I'm like, okay, let's continue with the game. I'll get it from her later, whatever. Let me just get through this disc, because this disc is starting to worry me now. So I went to Lunatic Pandora, and I went to the last room where you fight Cypher just before the disc ends. And naturally, that's the one other room in the game it wouldn't load. I couldn't continue the game. It was Final Fantasy VII all over again. If you recall from that video, I had to buy another copy of the game on PC because I couldn't get past, spoilers, Aeris's death. It wouldn't load the next scene after that, and I couldn't finish disc 1. And then when I bought the second copy of FF7, there was an FMV, it wouldn't load on disc 2, so I had to go back to the old copy, and now suddenly Final Fantasy VIII's doing it too. And actually, Final Fantasy XII had done it to me in the past. I have bad luck with Final Fantasy games. I have 2 copies of, actually I have 3 copies of 7, kind of because I have the PlayStation version of it too. I have 2 copies of 12 because I had to buy that when it futzed out. I already had 2 copies of 8 at this point, the PC version and the PlayStation version. And I couldn't believe that it did it again. So, I got on Amazon. I bought it again. I now have 3 copies of Final Fantasy VIII. Well, this one is the, you can tell the original label instead of the Greatest Hits re-release, which is actually kind of cool, because I didn't know this. Like my copy of Final Fantasy IX has these cool holographic, discs. It has like the FMV renderings of the characters on them. It looked really cool. But when I got my copy of 8, just like, oh look, you drew Squall on a disc. Isn't that cool? Look how Squall's on the disc. Apparently, they just sort of got lazy when they re-released the game, because I got this original copy. I didn't realize this for over a decade. It looks just like Final Fantasy IX. This is actually a better copy than what I already had. I got it for really cheap too, and it claimed it was just in acceptable condition. I expected to get a bunch of discs and envelopes, but this has the full thing. Even has like this mini walkthrough. This copy didn't have that. So, hey, I'm not too dissatisfied. By that point, I figured, hey, might as well leave Lunatic Pandora, finish the flippin' Queen of Cards quest. I did that. And managed to beat the game that way.